Natalie Polisson. How are you? Checking in from LA.
Yes, I am so good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. LA during the Christmas season. What is that like? Like what is the because you're from Crown Point. We're from the same
Mhm.
hometown. What is that like? Which by the way, I did just find out before we jumped on here that we know each other through mutual friends.
hmm Crazy. Small world.
Right, right, right.
Um, it was a long time ago. It doesn't feel that long ago, but it was. Let's see. LA, yeah, it's weird. My first winter here, I was like, there's no snow, it's not cold, there's palm trees. Like, how is this any kind of Christmas or holiday? But it is kind of the rainy season. So it's weird. We just get some cruddy rain and gloominess.
At
But
least
it's
you
not
at least you
freezing.
don't at least you don't get like the terribly cold weather. Like I've heard mixed things about LA. I've heard it good things mainly about the weather, but I've heard bad things about LA too, like the culture, the lifestyle, like the people, the vibe. Like is there how do you feel about that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Tell me
There,
why. Tell me
um,
why.
there's a lot of cool things.
Yeah.
There's some, not great things. So like the cool things are there's so many opportunities. There's, for me, it's a great place to be. There's, awesome restaurants and bars. I'm not really a big like bar person, but just like,
Sure.
getting out, there's cool museums. What I love about LA is there's awesome places to hike. We have the ocean. You could 2 hours from here, you can go to the desert and then you can also go skiing. So you
Right.
have everything. Um, and then you have
Yeah.
it's just insanely expensive. You
Yeah.
have homeless scattered
Yeah.
all through the streets. Hollywood in particular is awful.
Yeah.
Like to the point of where you have to like go around the tents on the road. It's really, really bad. You have like lots of littering. There's I don't know. And then it's very different than the
Yeah.
Midwest. Like a
Do you ever
hundred.
miss home? Like, do you ever miss Crown Point? And so, like, also, it's so funny that we connected like online, but I didn't realize that we had a mutual friend. When we opened up our session today, I was like, I know you. Like, I know you. Like, we have so many mutual friends. Like, what were you like in high school? Like, what was your like? What kind of like? You don't have to name names or anything, but like, what
Yeah.
kind of like cliques were you in high school?
So funny. You know, I laugh because I started doing music when I was young. I started playing violin when I was young. I sang and then I got into the plays. I did the musicals. I did the plays.
Yeah.
I just always loved it. Like it's always been in me. I mean, I guess it's like transformed a little bit because now I'm like doing more stuff on camera, but
Mhm.
I've just like always loved that. I was
Like
on the dance
always liked
team.
performing.
Yeah, performing, being artistic, music, anything like that. It's just always been in me. I've always been super extroverted. I think as I get older, I'm getting more introverted, which I'm like, what's happening? Who
Welcome to
am
the
I?
club.
I know that happens, right? Um, yeah, it's so funny because I kind of feel like I've just been kind of the same, but like, as I get older, I learn more and go, oh, that was stupid. I shouldn't have done that when I was younger. Or I know how to go about things better and I learn more about my craft, but yeah, I
So
guess
did
so.
you always know that you wanted to be an actor? And is the proper terminology actor or actress? What is the like
You know what's so
what is
interesting?
the right thing to say?
I was curious. So I looked it up the other day
Yeah.
and it's actress. They said actress means like little actor, like not as good.
Like is it derogatory? Like actress is like kind of like derogatory in a way?
Well, I thought it was always female,
So did
but
I.
I don't know. But there was
Yeah.
something that I read that said it's like little act. like not as good kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I don't care. Listen, I'm like,
Yeah, okay. All right, cool.
I know who I
So
am.
yeah, it doesn't matter, right?
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
So all right, so one of the reasons, well, yeah, one of the reasons that I wanted to have a conversation with you is obviously I think you're talented. I really like the content that you put out,
Thank you.
but I always connect with people that are really passionate about what they're doing. And I'm a passion driven person. I mean, my like life flame is the fire is fueled by passion.
Mhm.
So whenever I see someone like grinding it out, doing what they love, following a unique path, something that's a little bit different than the norm, that always gets me going. I always get intrigued by that. So I was really curious to have a discussion around that because I also have gone a little bit of a different route. And I know other people who have gone a little bit of a different route and kind of gone for what you're passionate about.
Mhm.
So, what got you like to make the move into acting? Was it like immediate? Did you always know, like from I mean, you said you were doing this even in high school, but did you always know that once you graduated, this was the route that you were going to go? Did you try anything else?
Um, I so my story, and it's so cheesy, but it's really the truth. I was 9 years old and I went to New York City with my family and we saw Cats on
The
Broadway. And it's
play.
so funny. People they rip on Cats, they hate it, they say there's no plot, whatever. Um, but I remember sitting in that audience and my jaw just like dropped open. Like I couldn't, I was so amazed by what I saw. I think the performers were just so talented. I was like, wow, they're like their dancing is amazing. They're singing and they're also they're like embodying an animal on stage. And I don't know why, but it just like overtook me. And I literally went, that's what I want to do. That's it. And it was like that was the moment.
When you were 9?
Nine. I was
Wow.
9.
Okay.
And then like as a little kid, I did like one of the plays or musicals or whatever at the high school. And I loved it. And I think maybe it was just the adrenaline of being on stage or the artistic portion of it, whatever. And I definitely think like as I guess I've gone on the journey of life. This sounds so woo woo, but I find different ways that I love it or different reasons why. I always love music, but it's interesting. So I decided I was like, I'm going to go to school for musical theater. I love musical theater. When I did my first big lead at Crom Point was West Side Story. Did West Side Story. And I remember just like experiencing what it was Maria. Well, we don't have a lot of diversity. Okay. What Maria was going through. And I remember thinking like, wow, how amazing is it that I, as an outsider, get to have a moment to experience what this character is going through. And it just like was so like inspiring to me. And I just loved trying to understand how somebody else would go through something else or how they would go about it.
So like
And then,
putting yourself in their shoes, almost like
yeah,
method acting in a way.
yeah, I guess putting myself in their shoes
Yeah.
or, just the idea of like acting, like, and I think that's where, yeah, I mean, again, I love music. I love it all, but I think I really fell in love with acting and in just understanding people. And I didn't really realize it till I got older too, that I'm kind of like a people watcher. Like I'm really intuitive. And like when I talk to people, I'm not like a weird way, but like, I'm trying to understand like, oh, like, how did they like, how did they take that? Or like, how did I
Mhm.
say, like, I'm maybe a little bit of an overthinker. But yeah, so I don't know. I love the art of, I guess it really is kind of like almost like psychology. And then there's just what's so cool about it. And as with any art, there's no one way to do it. There's a million different ways you can do it. There's no right or wrong, which is very cool.
Yeah. You know where it has the best place for people watching? The airport.
Yes.
Like if you're a people watcher, you see the craziest stuff at an airport. I'm a people watcher too. I'm not necessarily like, I don't necessarily enjoy being in big crowds. That's
Mhm.
not my thing. Like even like at concerts or just anywhere, like a festival, like I can even see you breathing, like maybe like
Yeah,
that
no,
give
I
you
don't love it either.
anxiety.
It's like too
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's too much. But I do like people watching and just like observing. But it also sounds like you're maybe a little bit empathic too. Just like if you're able to put yourself in the position of other people,
Mhm.
I think that's empathy, right? And wouldn't you can classify that as empathy? So
Yeah.
that being able to tap into that probably makes you a really good actor, makes you good at your craft, being able to kind of go through and do any prep work to like get into that space beforehand. And by the way, I didn't even like give you like a full on intro for I mean your audience knows who you are, but for my audience, I mean you're an actress, you've been grinding out in LA, you've been in major commercials, films, you've been up for awards, independent films, you're a singer, dancer, violinist, like you have a lot going on and you're very very talented. So I wanted to make sure to kind of give you the proper introduction there. Anyway, that's what did I
Um,
ask you?
oh yeah, you
I asked you
asked
something before that.
kind of how I prepare.
Yeah,
For,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's so interesting. I call it my toolbox,
Mhm.
my actor's toolbox. Um, because I've been training for so long. I mean, I go in and out of classes, just, schedule, time, money, all the things. I
Mhm.
just finished an intensive class today. I had a 5-hour class today.
What's class like?
It's amazing. In LA, it's interesting. I've had mixed experiences. The one I just finished was fantastic, but I've also had the experience where sometimes I think the teachers like to, I don't know. I think there's like a psychology thing of where they kind of try to beat you down because they want you to think you have to keep going to them. They have the
Oh,
power. I don't know. Or they rip you apart to build you up. I don't know what it is. And I understand, like, it's a tough business. Like, I'm all for, I want criticism in a way that's going to build me up and then I'm going to learn. I want people to be real with me. I don't want sugarcoat. Oh, that was great. No, be real with me because I want to get better. I want to know what I can improve on. But it is interesting. Like, when you are an artist or you are being really vulnerable, if someone is like, no, they just shut you down. It's kind of hard to like feel like you're free and creative when, it doesn't feel like a safe space, I guess. I know that's, again, sounds woo woo, but it's true.
yeah. I'm so curious to know like what a typical day is like for you. Like what is just a typical Tuesday on a normal week look like for you? Are you going to auditions? Because I do see you go to like a lot of auditions and you're always working for that next opportunity.
Yeah.
So what does that scenario look like? Like, do you have to take an Uber somewhere and go through all this traffic and fight a
Mm.
bomb to get to where you're going? Like, how does that work?
It's so wild because every I laugh. Every week is different. I just don't know. Every day is different. So, okay, of course the dream is to work primarily as an actor. But LA is really expensive and it's like, we all have to have every single actor. I mean, I've met actors on big shows. They still have their side jobs because you might work that big show or you might work that big commercial, you get that paycheck and then you're not booking for a
It's
while.
very unpredictable, huh?
Totally unpredictable. So yeah, so I just have a lot of, I call them my side hustles, my real people jobs.
Yeah.
But I've learned to not schedule too many in because I don't know what auditions are going to come through. And then when the auditions come through, I want to have the time to work on them and do a good job. And then, I know now that I do book work, praise God, I book work. And so I want to make sure that I have time in there. And I mean, if work does come in and I have something booked, I just have to figure it out. It's like a mad scramble every day, a mad scramble. So you could get an audition, for example, not yesterday, the day before at night, I got an audition from my manager, and it was due like the next day. I mean, that's just kind of how it can be. Now
So
there's
you didn't have any time to prepare. I mean, it was like, hey, we got this tomorrow. You got to get in there.
and
So
I had planned to work an 8-hour day the next day. So I had to work an 8 hour. And
and
then,
you didn't like have to time to go over your lines or anything, or how did that work?
you just do your best. You stay up.
Oh
I mean,
man.
there's so many nights of sacrificing sleep or,
Yeah.
not seeing your friends or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you have to remember, like, I did a thing once. I was I added up, but I was like, I'm driving at least 15 hours a week in LA. Like the amount of driving is just insane because you're in traffic constantly. But
Oh, that sounds so stressful.
yeah, it's super stressful. There are, so now that, well, I don't know if you were familiar, but there was the strike this year. So there was
I was going to ask you about that. Like, how did that affect you?
yeah, so there was the SAG strike, and they're coming up with like better I don't know, conditions for auditioning and whatnot. So they're kind of settling on that, but it does depend on the audition. So it's interesting. So for me, and I hopefully I won't be like too confusing with this. So there is the union, and I'm eligible for the union. I have not joined yet. I don't want to join until I have to. Reason being is that about 90% of commercials yet are non-union. It's unfortunate. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. So it's just the way that the industry kind of has become. And also I go out for all of these Hallmark Lifetime movies all the time. They're all
so like I could flip on Hallmark and you're in X whatever Christmas Hallmark movie. Like, do you have any like particular ones that you've been in, or?
Well, I was in two small ones, but one of them is still getting distribution, so I don't know exactly where it's going to go.
Yeah. Your IMDb is huge.
Oh, thank you.
You're in like 45 projects.
Yeah, I've had a lot. It's been good.
Yeah.
And what's funny is there's certain ones, they were smaller, but they don't even include them on there. So I'm like, I wonder how many I've actually done, which would be interesting.
Do you have a favorite? Like, what's your favorite one? Before we jumped on here, you're in this. So there's this, I love this commercial that you're in. So you have it pinned to your, you have it pinned to your Instagram. So it's at the top. So if you go to Natalie's Instagram, you could see it, but it's so funny because it's just the perfect commercial. It's a sunscreen commercial and you play a vampire and like it opens and you're like the sun's hitting you. So like the whole idea around a vampire and sunscreen is hilarious. And the way that you go about it, I remember when I saw that when you posted that, and I don't like typically start laughing at like someone posting like a commercial. Like I'm a tough sell. I'm a really hard sell, especially when it comes to comedies. Like I'm someone who I don't find stand-up comedians funny. I don't find like, you know how there's a lot of comedians like that are on podcasts or they're on just whatever. I never laugh. I don't find when people are trying to be funny, it's not funny to me. It doesn't work. I laugh at like the random stuff, but that commercial with the way that you delivered it and the whole theme behind it, also because it reminded me of like What We Do in the Shadows. I don't know if there was any inspiration there. But that was so funny. So like, what is your, like, if you had to pick like a project, what would be because you do all sort of, I mean, you do drama, you do comedy, you sing, like you do a ton of stuff. Like your reel's packed.
Thank you.
So like, what's your favorite?
I don't know if I have like a favorite.
Yeah.
Done. I mean, maybe I have some favorites, and it's so interesting when talking about genre. People always ask me this, and I have such a hard time because they're just so different. Like I love drama. I love meaty characters. I love when like a character is like really going through something and like fighting for something, and there's all these obstacles in their way. But I love ridiculous humor. Like I love situational comedy. I love like I feel like my life has been like one awkward moment after another. Like I can relate to that. So I love that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. I almost feel like, I don't know for sure, but like maybe dark comedy, because I
That's
feel
the
like,
best. That dark comedy is the best.
yeah, maybe like it's anything where there's, a mixture of both. And this class that I'm taking, we were doing a piece just, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks ago. And I chose to do it in a moment, and a couple other classmates did, but it was very much a dramatic piece. I can't remember what was happening in the scene, but I added a little humor to a moment, and then somebody, other people did in the class too. And the teacher was commenting on that. And it was just cool to be like, it's just such a human thing that, like, let's say we are going through something terrible or horrible. Like, how do you get through that moment? Like laughter or like humor, or like, it's very like, it's a little like nuances like that. Like not everything needs to be like, oh, this is so,
Right.
So, I don't know. It's so funny. I really do. I like it all. And there's so many different, and when you do an audition or you do a piece, you don't know the tone. Like that vampire one was super, super fun, but it was really like
Do
big
you
and
shoot
like,
that all in one day? Is that all
no,
in one day, or how?
no.
Like how? Okay.
We did several days. What was so crazy about that is we had was like a reschedule or something. I shot a couple days of that, and then I went to Hawaii for a couple days and then shot the rest of it. And I was so worried because I was like not tan, and then I was really tan. But you can't tell. Like I can't even tell.
No.
When it's edited together, I'm like,
The
I don't
only
know.
thing that like messes with continuity, I find, is like when someone has a completely different hairstyle. Like if their hairstyle is like long then short, then like all over the place, that stuff, like I can point that out in a movie. But like skin tone, that's pretty, a little makeup too could
Oh
probably
yeah,
fix that.
makeup and like editing. I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah. No. Okay. So I got so many questions because I love movies. Like my original goal when I went to college was I wanted to be a movie director. I went to Columbia. Like my goal was to make movies. It was to make horror movies. I directed horror movies. Like that's what I did in college. It was
I did
like
not
going
know
to
this.
camp. Yeah. So, and that was in Chicago. And so I didn't end up following through with it. So, but the passion for movies and art has always remained. So I really enjoy hearing about like all the behind the scenes stuff, everything that goes on. So like, have there ever been any crazy set stories that you can share, or anything just like, even like where a director or an actor, like a high-end actor, was like not nice to you or the crew? Like has anything just really super interesting happened on any of these sets?
I don't know if anything crazy. Um, I did I won't say who the
Hey, you don't have to say any
yeah,
names.
I won't say who the this was very interesting. I mean, this was many years ago. I
Okay.
basically did like a featured background in this, which sometimes like the pay can be cool and it's fun. And if you're in a music video, you basically are featured background because the artist is
Sure.
the lead.
Yeah.
Um, it was like a rapper's music video.
Okay.
And we were there all night waiting on him because he was smoking so much weed. I mean, he literally was doing all of his, I don't even know what drugs. I don't know. I don't know.
Sure.
And then like with his like girls, it was just so weird to be like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, like we have to wait because this
You guys are
young,
just all chilling on set, ready to rock, and he's like in his green room or something.
yeah, I don't know, getting high. And then like,
Oh my God.
that was interesting. So, yeah, but I guess aside from that,
That's good if you
nothing.
don't have any like, I mean, I would think if you had something really bad happen or like insane, it would come to mind right away. So it's good that you haven't had anything like too terrible, because you hear stories, right? Like you hear stories about LA in general, about movie sets, about the culture. I mean, it's not uncommon to hear about just something wild happening. So that's good that, I mean, at least nothing bad has happened. But I always like hearing about stories and just stuff that you don't usually find, especially in like a small town that we came from.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
so when you made the move to LA, did you try doing like the Chicago thing, or did you just go straight to LA? Because it's like basically LA or New York, really, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for big cities, I
Yeah.
mean, depending on if you want to do theater or film, like there are other smaller markets, but those are, I'd say, some of the bigger ones. But so, yeah, I was doing musical theater full time before moving to LA. So theater was my life. Like, speaking of full-time actor, like I didn't have to do anything else. And I loved it and it was amazing. But it was regional theater and there's nothing wrong with that. It was awesome.
Right.
Um, and I, could have continued that, and people do that. But what's so weird about that is you just don't know where your next contract's going to be. I was living in Lancaster, Pennsylvania for 3 years. It's kind of a smaller, like, I don't know, smaller city town. And there was a lot of creative opportunities there. Like I had done some on-camera projects, which were really cool and I enjoyed them. But I started feeling that kind of small town, like, oh, this person's always going to get cast as this role. Like this person's going to get cast as this person. And I guess like I always wanted to be in a place where I could always audition. Like I didn't have to just focus on like, oh, I just have a
Right.
couple big auditions. I wanted more opportunity. I wanted to learn, and I didn't want to be, they call it like, I don't know, typecasting, where it's not even like based on like what you look like or whatever, but based on how people know you. Like if you're young and you grew up as this kind of person, if they're always going to give you that kind of role, or they're always going to see you as this, or always, I don't know. I was like, I want to try something else. So, my last big theater contract, I was living in Alaska. I was working for a cruise line, but I was
You were
living there.
living in Alaska? Oh, wow.
Living for like 6 months,
Oh,
but
wow.
the
That's,
warmer part of the month.
yeah.
And before that contract, I said, you know what, I think I'm gonna move to LA. So I want to try more on camera. I had done like a little bit and I had enjoyed it. And I think it was just that moment of like, I'm still pretty young. I love acting. Why not try it? Like, I just want to try it. Let's see what happens. I know I love theater. So I, got my stuff there, and then I drove from Alaska to California. And I just remember it being so funny, like seeing the California sign going, here I am. I've never even been to California, and here I am moving here. Uh,
Yeah. That's literally like a movie in
yeah.
of itself, right? Like the whole story, like moving, coming from a small town. Are there things that you miss about a small town?
Oh yeah, yeah, yes. We mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. It's so funny. And I've realized this about myself. So what I do love when I come back home, I'll go into a gas station or a store and they'll be like, oh my gosh, how's your day going? Like, what are you doing tonight? There's this kind of friendly vibe. It's so rare that
Is it?
yeah, there's not a lot of that here occasionally, but not a lot of it. Um, I love at home, we can just drive and there's not 800 cars on the road.
That is huge.
It's just insane.
Huge.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
traffic is insane. But what's so interesting is like living here, I've realized it's wild because I'm like, when I go home, I'm like, oh, I don't really think I quite belong here at home in Indiana, because for what I'm doing, the opportunity really isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, how do I say this? I don't have a lot of really creative people that I
Mm-hmm.
feel like understand me or understand my career there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a little hard. But then I'm here, and then it's really interesting because, like, for example, I would love to get married and have kids one day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a little more traditional in that way. But then here, for wanting that. You're almost like villainized. You're like, what? You know what I mean? It's so
Yeah,
opposite.
it's complete
And then
180.
yeah, and like in Indiana, people,
Do you
our
feel
age.
like you belong like where you're so you said when you're kind of in our town, you kind of feel like maybe out of place. Do you feel out of place where you're at, or do you feel like, oh, okay, this is kind of where
I
I'm
mean, I still
meant to
feel a
be?
little out of place here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just me, and it is what it is, and
You
I'm
know what though, Natalie? I relate to that. I
yeah.
typically I don't know who I was talking to this about, but I typically feel out of place wherever I go. Not in a bad way, unless I'm like with like my close friends that people that you can not say anything around and that's okay. Like you don't even have to be talking for it to be just normal. Like you can sit, be in the same room, no one's saying anything, and you just feel at home. Like it's
Yeah.
rare. But I find that most places I go, I feel out of place. And I don't know why. I've always felt that way.
Hmm.
And it's not like a bad or a good thing. It's just kind of like a me thing, but sometimes I get confused because a lot of other people don't seem to feel that way. And so it's interesting for me to hear that you kind of feel that way too. I'm also like a very creative type,
Hmm.
where I have like different interests. So obviously bodybuilding, fitness, that's a lifestyle for
Yeah.
me and a career. But also I do music production and that's fuels my creativity.
Yeah.
And I've found like if I'm not creating something, things don't like pan out well for my mental health. Like I feel
Hmm.
like if I don't have projects going, I feel like internally something's missing with
Yep.
me and I feel pretty unfulfilled and pretty I could get pretty my thought process just gets a little clouded. When I'm creating something, I'm more excited. I wake up a little bit happier, I go to bed a little bit happier. There's some part of my genetic makeup that unless I'm creating something that I just don't feel like the whole me is there. And it's always been like that. But also the downside is that of that is I never feel like I'm doing enough. Like I'm always like I should be doing more. Like I want to be doing more.
Hmm.
And sometimes that can also be a little bit exhausting. I don't know if you feel
Oh, I
that
can
way
relate to
ever.
that 100%.
Okay. Okay.
100%.
Which part exactly?
I always feel like I could be doing more.
Yeah.
I could be doing better. I think I have really high expectations for myself, and I just always I want to create more. I want to do more. I want to learn this. I want to do this. And then I always get like overwhelmed because I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't have time. Like I can't do this, and then, you know, so I have to kind of like dial it back. And
Right.
so I'm always trying to find the balance of like, I was just talking about this the other day. I think it's for me, it's good that I have it because it drives me to continue. Like I call myself a lifelong learner to continue to improve and get better um in my craft or in anything I want to learn or work on. But I have to find that balance of then not beating myself up because I'm not, I don't know, you know, of course,
Well,
we're
it
tired.
has to be hard I mean, the I can't think of a more competitive place than LA. I mean,
Mhm.
I just cannot think of a more competitive place to be. And when you add in layers like Instagram, every industry has their, you know, Instagram algorithm or whatever. And so whether it's the fitness industry, whether it's the music industry, whether it's Hollywood. So you're just getting bombarded with all of these top level people that are at the highest level. And so it becomes so easy to be like, why aren't I there? Like, what is going on with me?
Mhm.
And I think like even if you're in the real estate or the culinary, like whatever it is, if you because what you're interested in, you're getting shown on social media. I don't know why I'm going to social media, but what you
Yeah.
said brought up social media. And I do think like it's relevant in all industries at this point. So you're just getting hit with whatever you're interested in. So for me, it's, fitness or whatever. And for you, maybe it's acting. And for another person, it's whatever they're interested in. So it becomes quite easy to compare yourself and feel like you're not where you should be when, like you said, you can only do so much, right? I mean, how many, if you're doing an audition and then multiple auditions in a day, right? You have a manager, working on your resume, working on your craft. Like outside of that, like what else can you do other than just focus on what's in front of you and grind? And that's what actually intrigued me with you, is because I could tell from your stories and your posts, like you were just out there working your ass off. And I respect the hell out of that.
Thank you. I do.
Yeah.
But I love it. I mean, we had a husband and wife team when I was in college come in, and they said, I don't know if they were screenwriters or what, I can't remember. They were in the business somehow, but they were like, if you can do anything else, please do it. If you can do anything else, do
like
it.
They were kind of warning you, don't do this.
Well, it makes sense, especially now that I've gotten older. It's like, if you feel fulfilled with anything else, this is hard. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need this. But if you don't, like for me, I'm just like, I love it so much. Like, I love it. It fulfills me. It needs to be in my life. I mean, maybe as the years go on, I don't know, maybe it may change or grow in different ways, or I don't know. But I know that like, I don't know, kind of what you were saying about like that need to be creative, like you have to like, or you're not, I feel that like I just can't imagine.
I think it's something
I'm
you're
not.
born with, like that creative gene.
Mhm.
I don't have any science to back this up, but that creative gene, I really do think that is like, it's something you can't control. I can't control it. It's not like I can be like, I cannot create, like I can't control, if I don't create something, then I feel this way. That it's just what is. It's not everyone feels that way, but most of the creative people that I talk to, they say the same thing. So I do think that is something that you're born with. And I do think like having a why in whatever you're doing is really important. Like if it's something significant in terms of a lifestyle or a career, like having a reason to keep going when you're not motivated, because like and like I know, you're probably not motivated most of the time. Like it's not like you wake up every day and you're like, audition, like you're doing the work.
Yeah.
Motivation comes in waves, and there probably are times where you're feeling, yeah, let's go get this, but that's few and far between. It's no different than for me going to the gym. I don't wake up motivated every single day, especially depending on what I'm doing. I just do it because I have a why that's pushing me. I know what I'm after and I know what I'm passionate about. So for you, I'm curious to know like your why. It sounds like you said when you were 9 years old, you knew this is what you wanted to do. So is that your why that keeps you going when you're not motivated, and even when things like aren't going well? Like let's say you're just striking out, you can't land an audition, weeks go by. It's kind of like, it reminds me of sales, because I've done many years in home sales where I go to these homes and just these people that called for whatever product, and I go out to give them an estimate and do the whole demo in the living room. And I mean, 3 to 5 homes a day. And I mean, when 2 weeks go by and you've been in 28 homes and you aren't selling, you feel like shit. Like you feel like absolute trash. So what keeps you going when
Mhm.
you're feeling down, like when you're not motivated.
Yeah. It's so funny when you're saying like the why. Like, I guess I probably have a couple, but what I've noticed for me is like, yeah, there's many times I just don't want to do an audition. So last night I worked all day. I'm getting over this thing that everybody in
Yeah,
the
Natalie
world
was
has.
really sick. We actually we were set to shoot last week, but you said you had RSV and you were just you put up a story and you looked so defeated. You were so sick, like you
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
even talk. So I was happy to reschedule that. And like I've said in the previous podcast, everybody just I have people checking in from Australia that are sick. Like everyone is sick universally
The
right now.
world.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so for example, like last night I had to do this audition and like, man, I'm tired. I I just need rest. And I do. Like I need to rest my body and I'm excited because in a few days I will have many days of rest.
Yeah.
But here's like how I know that like I guess it's just a part of me and that I love it and it's so interesting. I kind of feel this way about exercising too. I mean, this is more obviously this is like my thing, but like it's the same way with me with exercising, but I'll get the um I'll get the script out, the audition sides, and I'm like, okay, like I don't want to do it. But then once I start into it and I pull out what I call my actor toolbox and I, utilize my technique and I understand the story and I try to create something with the little bit of sides that I have. And I almost like call it like building like a puzzle or finding the puzzle pieces because a lot of times like we don't get what's going on in the story, but we have to figure it out from this little bit that we get.
What do you mean by that? Like you don't get the whole script, you just get your little section?
Yeah, so most of the time we don't get the whole script. We get a small section and maybe a small like this is what's going on with the character and then a log line which is like this is kind of what the project's about. But like that's it. So there'll be lines and
Oh.
stuff and you're like I have no idea what they're referring to. But you as an actor, that's your job to make it very specific and figure it out. So you create this world, you create this life and it has to read. So that's where like it's like once I start the work, I just get so like lost in it and I get like so like intrigued and I'm like and then even as I work like I'll okay like all right this is kind of my idea of what I'm going to do here and then now a lot of it's self-tape. So I'm self-taping from home. I have my lights and everything and I'm working and then I might do a take and then I'll watch it and then I'd be like, oh,
Oh, so you're doing your audition and sending it to him?
a lot of it since COVID is
That
now
sounds nice, to be honest. Unless you don't prefer doing that, but that sounds like, I mean, like
it's
super convenient. It just, I don't know if that's something you like or
yeah,
not.
it has its pluses and minuses. We definitely had to go out and like got out, all the equipment and you have to like edit your tape. I compress the files, I send it in.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I will say, with the traffic and everything, it's
Yeah.
way nicer. The one thing that is hard as an actor, we don't get the redirect. So, like, the thing here's a clue as an actor. If they are interested in you, they say, "Oh my gosh, that was great. Can we try it again?" They want to see how you can be directed. Now, if you do a self tape, you could be great, but what if your vision is, I mean, it depends on the casting director or whatever. What if your vision is totally off and they're like, I mean, usually if they see something in you, they'll call you back. But so I sometimes what I'll do is it almost feels like double the work, but I'll do two different takes if they'll allow me. I'll do it like just two very, very different ways. So again, just another way to create. But when I'm in that zone and I'm creating and I'm doing and I'm watching, but that's where I can get really like hard on myself and I'm, really in the like almost like mad scientist.
Yeah. Is it hard to, God, I have so many questions. I'm so interested in what you're saying. Is it hard to see yourself on camera and go through and like critique yourself? Because like I have a hard time seeing myself just on Instagram. Like when I post like stuff, I really don't like I mean, I don't like seeing myself. Like it's something I'm very hard on myself. Like I start to really critique myself in ways that I highly doubt other people are critiquing me, but I critique myself. I am my own worst critic when it comes to music, whatever I'm making. Like the amount of like self critique that I do in any area that I'm very passionate about, bodybuilding, coaching. I'm always trying to get better. I'm always learning, like you said, taking classes, doing whatever I can to live up to this like impossible standard that I set for myself. And I've always been that way. I've always been really hard on myself. So does this translate into your world too? Is that something that you have to deal with, or are you kind of like okay with that?
I used to be very much like that. I think it might be a combination of just like me growing to know myself, but also I think also just the career, putting myself on tape, seeing myself on video all the time. I really, it's so weird. And I actually was talking about this recently with a friend. I'm really happy that I actually don't often think like, okay, like occasionally if I'm like a really bad angle, I'm like, oh, maybe I should, we should change that angle. But I guess it's nice because I don't immediately go to like what I look at is the work. It's weird. Like I'm seeing my face, but I'm looking at the work.
You're
Like
looking at like how the acting, like your acting skills.
Yeah, like what
Like,
is
are
the
you
work that I'm doing?
emoting this? Are you
Yeah. And then
relaying this?
but then it is weird because it is a vain industry and we are, here, that I have to go like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't a good angle. But of course, if you're on set though, you have like the cameraman and stuff. That's not my responsibility. So, but no, I mainly just look at the work. I don't know, which
I
is
feel like
nice.
that's super, super productive.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I can guarantee if I took that approach with like a lot of the stuff that I make and create, I would be further in those areas. Because what ends up happening is you end up critiquing yourself so much that shit doesn't get done. Like you don't even end up putting stuff out. The amount of stuff that I delete or like doesn't see the light of day. Imagine if I just focus on the work and not like, oh, you're not this, you're not that, you're not muscular enough, you're not lean enough, you're not this, you're not that. Oh, this isn't, I mean, it's endless. So think about like how much that can affect like what you're actually trying to get done. I think that's so productive, and I think that's so healthy, and I think it's so necessary if you want to get far in what you're doing. I'm trying to work on it myself. Like even this podcast, it took me, I've been wanting to do this podcast for a really long time. And the reason I didn't start it is because I knew that I was going to suck at it for a while. And starting stuff when you're experienced in fitness and bodybuilding, it tends to be an analogy for most things, which is you start at the bottom, you suck for a while, it takes a really long time to get good, and you have to go through the process from A to Z and can't skip any steps. So when you have that information going into things, you're like, okay, so like I'm going to have this issue, I'm going to have this issue, this is going to suck, it's going to be embarrassing. Everything that I've ever started was embarrassing. It always started as embarrassing and nobody cared. And then after X amount of time, then you do it for long enough and you start to get opportunities and things start to go your way. But you have that information going in, so it can take a long time to get the balls to be like, screw all that. I'm willing to fail for a while and be embarrassed for a while and just not be so good. So I'm a perfectionist. That's my like big, it's been a big problem in my life, but also something that I think the stuff that I'm passionate about, I've become very good at.
Mm-hmm.
So like things like coaching and music, just these different areas that I like really hone in on. I see them through and I get to where I want to go. But with that personality, you spend a lot of time really being hard on yourself and really focusing on a lot of what's wrong, like looking at what's wrong with this, like not what's right. Like I'll sit and I'll just be like, okay, what's wrong with what I'm doing? And then trying to focus on getting better. So I think that isn't the greatest way of going about things. I think that there is a better way of doing it. And I admire that you're able to kind of like look past any like self unnecessary. Certain amount of self-criticism is good.
Yeah.
You got to get better. And the only way to, if you're too light on yourself, you don't get better. I tend to have those conversations in fitness a lot of times, because a lot of times people can be like super forgiving of themselves. Like obviously being forgiving is important and being positive is very important, but there becomes a point where you got to address what's going on to get better. So I think that doing that in a healthy way and in a productive way is huge. And I'm going to try and do better at that. It's something that I constantly trying to improve on, but I do tend to be like a perfectionist in these certain areas. And I spend a lot of time focusing on like, all right, what's wrong with me?
I get it. That's huge. I mean, that's like the tendency that how my brain wants to go. And that's who I've always been. And I definitely have these moments, but I think I've been working. Yeah, I think just the past couple of years working against it. And I think I've just noticed that, like, I don't know, just again, it all sounds so woo-woo. I laugh because I live in LA.
What do you mean when
like,
you say woo-woo? You
I
said
say
woo-woo a couple
I say
times. What
woo-woo
is
because,
it? What
like,
do you mean by woo?
people
Like
here,
hippy
like,
dippy,
you gotta manifest, crystals and,
like
like,
corny? Yeah, crystals.
yeah, like, I don't know. But
I don't see any crystals back there.
no, I don't have any. But I think, I don't know, like it's interesting, but they do say, like, I think, yeah, it's a balance of wanting to have the drive and do well, but if you focus so much on the negative, it, like,
Yeah, fucks you
you
up.
gotta, well, it's so funny, like you were talking about, like, being a perfectionist. I laugh because, I look at pictures of myself when I was like in my early 20s or whatever. And I was fit. Like maybe I didn't have a six pack, but I was like, I remember thinking like, I thought I was big at the moment. Like I look back at those pictures and like, I wish I was as fat as I thought I was then. Not that I thought I was fat, but you know
I
what
get
I'm
what you're
saying?
saying.
Or is like out of shape because I didn't think I was like, because I'm also a perfectionist and I've always been that way in every kind of, way in my life when it comes to anything. And I guess I've just realized, like, I'm like, we're human, we can strive to be better. We can keep working, but we don't need to like, we don't need to put ourselves down, so I'm working on
Yeah.
it. It was a growing thing.
It's super productive. Do you ever go to therapy or do any of that kind of work?
Oh,
Or
I have before. I love listening to like, trying to think of like who, but like, I don't know, I'll like look up YouTube videos or like, TikTok or like, just like inspirational or
yeah.
yeah, that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, it pays to be like to do a self audit and kind of really look at some of the stuff that not beat yourself up, but self improvement. I mean, self improvement comes in many forms and it's a lifelong thing. Like you're going to classes, you're working. I mean, that's a form of self improvement. It's an expense with your time and your money. So, like doing these different types of self improvement, I think it's important. I don't think just I think most people don't really do a lot of that. And I think most people can benefit from doing some form of self improvement. There's like this weird stigma around it, which is odd to me. Like, why is it odd to focus on improving yourself?
Yeah.
Right. So like go to therapy, take a class, take a course, keep trying to get better in your career, learning from others, hiring coaches for whatever. I mean, all of these things are forms of self-improvement, and I think that they're so necessary. So I have an interesting question for you.
Okay.
Because I get very interested in like routines. So before you go on an audition, is there anything you do to like, I guess it depends what role you're going for. Like I was gonna say like hype yourself up to like get into the mood. Like let's say you said yesterday you had an audition, you weren't feeling very good. It's 6-7 o'clock at night. You're probably tired. You're still getting over being sick. So like is there anything you do in your routine, whether it be drink coffee, whether it be like you take a shower with certain music as you're getting ready? Like, is there anything you do to like get yourself in that mode to just like go crush this audition?
I don't have a specific thing. I will say, I really like affirmations. I can't remember, was it like a Maria Shriver book or something? It was a few years ago. I don't remember. But if I'm like going to an audition in person or even doing one, and let's say I don't want to do it, or let's say I'm not feeling very confident. I'm just like, I don't know, having whatever feelings. I do affirmations, and I'll just kind of be like, I'm right for the role. They're going to pick me. They're going to love me. They're going to love this audition or something. Whatever is applicable to that,
Right.
But as far as the other, it just depends. So it's really interesting. So last night, I was doing this audition. I was so tired and I was frustrated. And then I kept getting frustrated because I was so tired. Like I felt like we can use our pages, but for the most part, you should be as much off book as possible. And you have to do it very fast. And I kept like messing up the lines, but it was very interesting because this particular character was going through something with her husband and she was beyond frustrated with him. And I just like, it was like I channeled this, I had this like insane frustration for my day, an insane frustration that I had to do this audition, and insane, like, it was just like, I could use that,
Poor
so
boyfriend's like he's probably taking some shrapnel over there. He's like,
oh
why are you
no
so mean to me? Like, why are you being mean to me today? She's like, oh no, I'm sorry. It's just I'm in character. Like, who is the actor that goes around? Isn't it Daniel Day-Lewis that like if he's Abraham Lincoln, he's Abraham Lincoln. Like, and everyone's got to address him as Lincoln and all that. I think that might be someone taking themselves a little too seriously.
Yeah, that's
right.
a little wild. I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, I just, again, it's like filling that life of the backstory of the character, and at the top of the scene that you're going to record or you're going to do in person, in the room, it's what just happened to them right before that, and how are they feeling, what are they experiencing, what do they want from their other character, like it's all these things that you want to put in your body. And then if you can really like tap into that and not only have it in your mind, but like experience it physically. And that's what's so interesting about acting. I saw an interview the other day with what's her name? Bella. Is it Bella Ramsey from the little girl from The Last of Us? She was in Game of Thrones.
Okay.
But anyway, her and a couple other actors on the show were talking about how difficult acting is because yes, you're acting and there's different, it's not always method, sometimes you can use substitution as a tool, but a lot of it's imagination. But what people don't understand is when you're in that moment, your body doesn't realize, like your body is going through, and that's you want that because you want it to be authentic, but it is exhausting because your
like you could start trembling and start like producing adrenaline.
Yeah. So you'll go through that journey and your body goes through it, and that's the thing is like, or is it your body or your mind that they don't really know that it's false. You know, it's
Yeah.
not a real thing. So that's what's so interesting. So yeah, I guess it just depends on the
I've
audition.
always thought that acting in a horror movie would be extremely difficult because of the heights you have to go to. And like, let's say you're in the movie, whatever, just The Strangers or something like that, right?
Okay.
And you have to come across as super scared, you're crying, you're trembling, and then okay, that's just one take. Like, let's say you got to do 5 or 6 takes. I mean, who was it? Stanley Kubrick, who like drove Shelley Duvall nuts. Like, she didn't even return back to acting after The Shining. So,
I
like,
just read about that, and that is so
yeah,
cool.
it's
Yeah.
nuts. It's nuts. So, like, have you ever had to act in a horror movie where like you had to get up there and like
Yeah.
have to do multiple takes? I saw one that you did. I don't know what kind of film it was in your reel, but you were acting with a young girl and you were getting there. Like, you were acting your ass off and you were showing a lot of emotion.
Mhm.
And I would have to imagine something like that would be like afterwards you'd be like, I'm exhausted.
It is tiring. Yeah, I mean, with any kind of take like that, I guess a scene where your character is really going through something, or it's like quite a journey, or I don't know, like even like you said, like a horror film, and they're,
Yeah.
I mean, you hope that you can get it in a couple takes because it does get exhausting. Like I remember I did one film, I have like a tiny clip of it on my reel. This was actually one of my favorite films. I did a director wrote a film about dissociative identity disorder, which is basically multiple personality disorder. That's the name for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned so much from him. There was, I believe his mom had it. So he wrote it about her. And um, it was really interesting to play that character and really try to understand this. I don't know, this like mental, illness. I've
Did
never,
you have to show multiple personalities? So,
yeah.
like, have you seen the movie Split?
No, I need to. I need to. I think
Oh, it's
it's amazing.
badass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't say anything about it, but it's an M. Night movie, and who I don't remember the actor's name because we're recording. I'll
Yeah.
remember it. I
Yeah.
pride myself on my movie trivia, but he plays like multiple different characters, and he's like going from one to the next to the next to the next, like boom, 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 boom. It's nuts.
I've seen a couple clips, but yeah, that is on my list. But yeah, there was like a scene and a little bit of it's on my reel, but like this character finally admitting to somebody like something is going on with me. And I didn't realize when people have this like dissociative identity disorder, it almost feels like amnesia type of thing because they come out of it not knowing what happened because they were like these different alters. So just like this moment of like confiding in somebody for the first time that I've had these issues and not knowing what to do it and how scared I was. And it was like really well written and beautiful, but so just vulnerable and like gut wrenching. And I remember, I think we did it and we didn't have to do it a ton. I think they just wanted extra coverage, but it was like midnight and we had, I mean, maybe 5 times. And by the 5th time, I was like, please tell me that's it. You know what I mean? Because you're like, I have given you every,
Yeah.
that's so, but yeah, but
And how many damn takes do you really need? I mean, God, once you get to, I mean, more than that, it's
well,
just gonna make editing difficult.
and sometimes it's just about sometimes it's just about the coverage. So it's like they get the wide and then they want the
Mhm.
two shot and then they want the close up or and then this and then I'm a huge proponent of if they're doing coverage on my scene partner, I want to be as present and give them as much as I can. Of course it's hard if I don't know, it's weird. It's like, if I have to go after, it's like I want to make sure like I give the best that I can for the camera, but I want to give them as much as I can because I want them to have that to like receive off of. And I think
Yeah, it would
that's
be. I could imagine it would be hard to act with no like no one behind, no one acting with you. Like you're just
Yeah.
going off like someone reading the script or the lines or whatever, whether it
I
be
mean,
a grip
that's,
or whoever, but
and that's what we do in these auditions. I laugh at me just staring at a wall and
That's
or on set sometimes just staring at nobody. But I will say, like, having a pair of eyes and somebody to look,
yeah.
it really, it adds another layer.
Do you watch a lot of movies? Like, do you have time to watch? Because I mean, the thing is, I don't know about you, but when you're in something and you've like seen behind the curtain,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what it is, fitness, music, whatever. Like, if you spend a lot of time thinking about it, what you tend to do with your like free time, you tend to like look at other stuff because you're just over being around it so much. So do you watch a lot of movies with your free time, or how does that work?
I watch a decent amount. I mean, I don't have like a ton of free time, but yeah, like movies or TV shows. But I will say it's interesting. Like, I will, if I get an audition, I'll look up the casting director and then I'll be like, oh, what did they cast? And then I'll look them up. Or if it's like a show and someone's doing it, or if it's a show that's already on and I got an audition for it,
Mm-hmm.
I might then watch an episode because I want to see the tone. Like, I want to see what it's about. And then sometimes that's how I'll, get hooked on a show, or then I'll be like, oh, I
Yeah.
want to keep an eye out for this casting director. But it's a lot of times is I just don't have, I guess I don't have a ton of time, but I do. I mean, I enjoy watching movies and shows, and there's so many good ones out there.
What's like the ultimate, right? So if you could have your option, would you rather book like a TV show like The Last of Us or something that's like long running? Like say like
Uh-huh.
The Walking Dead? Like that's like just it seems to go forever. Is that the idea? Like get a character and then that's predictable work every season, or like a movie, like a big movie? Like
It's so
what's
interesting. And
the
there's
what would you rather in this hypothetical?
like an amazing movie sounds wonderful, but like me thinking as like, again, I don't just think of like, oh, this would be cool. I think of like paycheck. I think of like
Mm-hmm.
stability. I think of also what I could create. I guess really, I mean, my gosh, like a recurring on a show, having a character that I could really create. Because I think of
Mm-hmm.
like, I get an audition or do a film and then I have this character for only so long, but I can't imagine what you could create having a character for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And then having that stable work. I mean, that would be amazing. And then that'd be so cool if it led to movies.
Yeah, because like in a character too, like I mean, a movie, if you're a character and you're in a movie, realistically, how many minutes are you on screen? When you're in a TV show, you're talking multiple seasons. You get some real time to develop that character.
Mhm. It's true. Yeah. And they
Mm-hmm.
change and they go through things. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, that would be that'd be the ultimate dream. But I mean, I just love it all. I'm like, I'll take
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You seem to have a real passion for just the whole process and all of it, which that means you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So I do have a question about like a particular project of yours.
Hmm.
So I'm a big horror guy, and on my free time, like I was saying, I'm typically don't look at fitness stuff.
Hmm.
I'm saturated in fitness stuff with my own goals and spending all my day coaching. And I, by the time I'm done and it's 9 o'clock at night, I'm like, I don't want to think about fitness right now.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy horror movies and mostly the discussions around horror movies. I've just loved horror movies ever since I was a kid.
Hmm.
So I am part of like horror community groups and there are different YouTube channels that I enjoy watching. And I've connected with certain people online, and I've connected with his name is Lee McCoy, and his YouTube name is Drum Dums. And he turns out is a producer on one of your upcoming projects, which is the Crow Days of Sodom. So I'm interested in hearing about this project because A, I like Lee, and B, I love The Crow. I've always loved The Crow. It's one of my favorite movies growing up. So what can you say about this project, and how did you like get involved with it, and what can you talk about? Because I know it's not out yet.
Yeah. Let's see. So, gosh, I want to make sure I have his last name right. I'm pretty sure I do.
Cody?
Cody. Is it Cody Falk?
Yeah.
Cody Falk. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just so bad at last names.
No, I'm with you.
Um, yeah, so Cody was one of the writers on this. And then he's playing our main guy. He's playing the main guy. I think that we were connected online. It's so funny how like online
It's
is, well,
yeah.
it's so I fought it for so long, and then I realized it's really a tool for networking, and
And
it's
that isn't that what social media, like it is a way of networking and meeting people. I think that's the right way to use social media. Not all of this like comparison and feeling like crap. And I mean, it has many different purposes for many different people, but social media, when it was the inception of social media, was so you can connect with other people, and you tend to connect with people who have similar interests.
Absolutely. Yeah, which is
Yeah,
the best way to use it. Yeah,
absolutely.
but I think we were following each other on Facebook, and I think
Uh-huh.
it was, oh my gosh, last year sometime, and he's like, I have a project coming up. I think I have a part that you would be a really good fit for. Would you be interested in auditioning? And then I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Like I think I looked at some of his stuff, and I was like, oh, he's really talented. And
Can you
um
say what the part is? Like, can you say what can you say about the part, like the
yeah.
character or
So I'm like, what can I say?
yeah, okay.
Um,
Because I'm friends with Cody sent me a friend request on Facebook too.
oh,
So I'm friends with
nice.
Cody on Facebook too.
Yeah, you know what? I think because it was in the breakdown. So he's playing Thorn Gray. Um, and I'm playing his wife. So we were it's kind of following the crow, but like
You're playing Cody's wife?
he avenges.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I know the story, so
Yeah, yeah.
that
So you know
doesn't
the
bode
story of the
well for
crow.
your future.
Yeah. So yeah, it's he avenges
Sure,
the
sure, sure.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so and they've been shooting, I know, in the DC area. They've gotten, you said you're a big horror film
Mm-hmm.
fan,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so cool. I like the genre. I'm not like one that like knows
Yeah.
certain things or names, but I know they've gotten some like cool people involved, and
And these fan films are like not fan films anymore. They're like next level. Like there are
well,
some of them out there that are they're so high production value. Like
mhm.
it's like, I mean, they're called fan films, but they're like films.
And this is how, yeah. So Cody called me um one day, and we were talking, and basically he got a call, and he put this on Facebook, so this is out there, but um he got a call, and the production company in Hollywood, because they're doing an official prequel, the
Yeah,
sequel,
with
the whatever,
what's his name? Bill Skarsgård.
Skarsgård.
Yeah.
They made him change. So now it's just called Days of Sodom. They made
Oh,
him take out the crow. I mean, it's fine. People know what it
yeah.
is. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
made him take out the crow symbol.
Oh,
But
really? They can't even use the crow symbol?
no, but um, and we were talking, and I think it's just a testament to like how well he's put this together, how good it's going to be, like how important this film's going to be, like how they feel. Do they feel threatened? I don't know. So
Yeah.
yeah. So no, I think it's gonna be great. I'm super excited. But yeah, I think I'm filming. I don't remember. Maybe later spring is what
Do you
it
need to
is.
travel, or will you be traveling for it?
Yeah, to DC.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Gotcha. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. As soon as I saw that you were in that, I was
Mhm.
like, oh, I have to talk to her about this. Did you see the original or have you watched the original? Is that are you gonna have to do homework? Like,
Yeah, no,
okay, your homework is to watch the original Crow.
I
Just
think
don't watch the other ones. They suck.
yeah, I think it's going to be quite different. I have seen it. It was a long time ago. I really should.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't like have to, but I'd like to
Yeah.
rewatch it.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's like one of those. When do you think the best like time for movies was? Like if you had to like pick like when the best movies came out, like when do you think that would be? I have an exact answer.
Oh. Um, I don't know if I don't I mean definitely before all the CGI stuff for sure.
What do you think about AI? Does that freak you out?
I don't like it.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's like very
because isn't
scary.
that what the strike was about?
That was a big portion of what it was about.
Yeah.
They just want to use our likeness. Well, now, and this is what's scary about the new contract for SAG is that you have to agree to a digital double with certain jobs. And then they're saying that like you don't have to, but like if
Yeah.
you don't, you might not even get
You're
the audition.
screwed.
So
But yeah, that's like you're screwed then. I
yeah,
mean, once they start using your digital doubles, then you're gone. I mean, they don't unless you're getting paid for the digital double, but I don't think that I think the whole thing they were trying to do is you don't get paid for the digital double. And
yeah.
that's
And there might be certain contracts in there where you get a certain amount, but
yeah.
I think it's less than what it would be. And it's just
Yeah.
a little, I don't, the thing about the AI is it's just so crazy because it's how far it's come in a short amount of time. And it's
I
still in
know.
its like, infant stages and like where
Right.
would it go? My one of my favorite things is I don't know if you've seen it, but did you watch the episode of Black Mirror with mm, sorry, Selma Hayek? It's the first episode of the last season.
Yes.
Yeah, with the AI.
Give me, is that the one where the girl was doing stuff or how whatever Selma Hayek was doing, it was affecting the girl?
Yeah, so that's like
Yes.
the whole AI thing. Like that's like it was
Yeah.
such a like a meta. Like I was like, oh gosh.
Well, what happens is like when nefarious characters get a hold of it, right? Because like with every tool, with every good thing, there's a side effect.
Hmm.
The better something is, the more powerful or the more potent something is, the more potent the side effect is. So
Yeah.
the concern is like people getting their hands on it and using it for bad things,
Yeah.
which duh, that's what people do. Like people are a lot of people are evil, so they're going to use it for bad things. So the whole thing freaks me out too. Like there's a lot of useful ways to use it, which I'm already finding and utilizing. But there's going to be a lot of, I mean, from a creative standpoint, think about you know what? I'm about to go down a rabbit hole. I don't need to go on. But the answer to I can go on tangents, but the answer to the best time for film was the 90s. All the
Mm-hmm.
best movies came out in the 90s. Silence of the Lambs, Seven, Scream, like Forrest Gump, The Shawshank Redemption, which is arguably the best movie of all time. Like
Yeah.
Castaway, like right, like when
Yeah.
those movies are just incredible. Goodfellas, like I
I
mean, all
agree.
those classic movies. So, all right, Natalie. Well, I am gonna have all of your information up. Um, is there anything that you would like to promote in particular? Any like upcoming projects you want to talk about? I mean, the floor is yours to promote whatever you want.
Let's see. Upcoming. I don't know. I mean, right now I have it's at the very beginning of my short, but or my short. Sorry, it's a long day. My reel.
Yeah.
I have a short that I was in called Bisected. It just premiered at Dances with Films in New York City, a film festival, and now it's hitting different ones, but it's doing really well. So it's in the film festival circuit. Um, and then another one that I'm
Is
in.
that the one that you were nominated for? Were you, because you were nominated for best actress for something in a that was
Not
in,
that one.
okay.
But this next one, it's called Maladjustment.
Okay.
It's also a short. It's about a couple in the pandemic. I'm really proud of this one. It was really cool to work on. I think you would really like it. It has an element of like a little bit of the thriller type element. It's so that one is also making its way through the festivals. But yeah, I just won Best Actress at the Star City Film Festival in Wisconsin, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was it's a really cool, it's a cool short. I can't say too much about it because I'll give things away. But I think
My instincts are like ask questions,
yeah.
like find out more.
But
I
I
want to
think people
know
will
the
find
stuff that
it
you can't talk about.
relatable
Yeah.
because of the pandemic and living together. To me, it touches on being in a little bit of a narcissistic relationship with somebody, which a lot of people may find
Yeah,
relatable.
for
So
sure.
yeah, so I'm really proud of that one. But yeah, I have some projects coming up next year, which I'm excited for, but haven't filmed them yet. I won't say the name or anything, but I'm excited. It's an indie. I shouldn't say just. It's an indie film.
Yeah.
In January, I'm filming a post-apocalyptic feature, and I cannot wait.
That
So
sounds like fun.
yeah.
Post-apocalyptic, that sounds like
Mhm.
with something like that, are you on set or are you on like well, on set, like on location, or are you on like set?
Oh, it
Is that, am
depends.
I saying that right? On
Yeah,
location versus on set? You know what I'm talking about.
usually on location. So they'll probably for this one, like we have like an old house we're
That's
using
fun.
for some of the shots, and then or
Yeah.
scenes, and then um do we have an old warehouse? I think there's an old warehouse we're using,
Yeah.
and then like there's this beautiful lake and outside. So but yeah, like
Yeah.
actual places. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm so excited to see anything that you're working on. Like I said, I've really enjoyed seeing about what you're posting on with the projects, but also the passion comes through. I can tell you're working your ass off, and I really do wish you the best. I'm going to include all your information in the link below so people can go and find you. And then when you're big and famous, you can be like, I was on that podcast.
Perfect.
All right, Natalie. Well, thanks again for jumping on. I do hope that you guys have an amazing holiday and a happy and healthy new year.
Thank you. You too.